I just think we should know more about her. I think the story should be shared farther and wider. I think everybody should come to Twillingate for 1,000 reasons, but one of the reasons is this museum, and in particular, that exhibit for Georgina Sterling. Sitting outside Twillingate Museum right now, obviously in the town of Twillingate. The museum is closed right now for this season, but you have an exhibit. It's an ongoing exhibit. I understand it's just basically permanent in honor of Georgina Sterling of Twillingate, Mademoiselle Twillingate. Georgina Sterling was born and raised in Twillingate and became literally the world's biggest pop star in the 1890s, the turn of the century into the 1900s. She was a soprano, and I don't know what a soprano is. I know the term, but I don't know what it is in terms of, like, if I heard it, I wouldn't be able to identify it. But she's basically an opera singer. She trained initially in Toronto and then went over to Europe to train and jumped into a very, very successful but short career as a singer in front of audiences all over Europe, New York City, and of course here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Unfortunately, her time came before music was widely recorded. In the museum, they have a recording that they attribute to Mademoiselle Twillingate, to Georgina Sterling, Miss Georgie. There's controversy, I wouldn't say controversy because I don't think people really know about it, but there's some dispute over whether or not the actual recording is actually Georgina Sterling. But even if it isn't, the fact that it could be, the fact that the recording is, like, the quality is not really great, although you can hear it, and it's kind of chilling to hear such a beautiful song, whether it is her or not. But the fact that it might be her, if it's similar enough to her that somebody at some point said that this was Georgina Sterling, that's awesome, because at least we have an idea of what she sounded like. Otherwise, we have no clue whatsoever other than just stories being passed down. And that's kind of like what the value of this museum is doing by keeping the story alive and spreading it, a little bit. The story of Mademoiselle Twillingate is incredible, and I didn't learn anything about it until I was in my 40s. There's a book that was written, I believe, in the 80s by someone from the Peyton family, one of the prominent families in Twillingate, and the relation of Miss Georgie somewhere down the line. She says in the book, but I can't remember, but I believe she's like second cousin or great niece, whatever it is, she's a relation. But that book is from the 80s, and it was the only book that I could find, the only resource I could find, other than the museum itself, that really shed any kind of light on Miss Georgie's career. There's another book that came out much more recently, but I have the book, I haven't read it yet. I'll share the information about that book as well, and I'll get into reading it soon enough. But there has been very little known about this amazing singer in Newfoundland. I didn't hear about her in school at all. I didn't hear about her until the last couple of years. In a place like Newfoundland where, a hero like this could sort of pick us all up and make us all feel like we can do anything, I feel like this is a story that should be spread. So that's why I'm talking about it here right now. The amazing thing about the exhibit in the museum is the proof that we know that this career even existed, because it wasn't reported, with the exception of that one possible song that may be her. We have all of the correspondence that still exists between Miss Georgie and her sisters, and a few other people as well, a couple of friends of hers as well. But there's a lot of correspondence, postcards, things that she would write and send to her loved ones while she was on tour in Italy or in New York or wherever. And that's incredible because you don't really think about that, documenting a musical career through postcards, but at least these mementos exist to show that Georgina Sterling had an incredible life, a Newfoundlander from Twillingate. Not the Twillingate of 2024, but the Twillingate of the sort of last quarter of the 1800s, where there were no, let alone roads, there wasn't even a causeway connecting the two sides of Twillingate. Like, this was a very different world. And for this lady to get out and not only see and explore the world, but conquer it in her field, in a very highly sought after field, it's incredible. I just think we should know more about her. I think the story should be shared farther and wider. I think everybody should come to Twillingate for 1,000 reasons, but one of the reasons is this museum, and in particular, that exhibit for Georgina Sterling. She came back to Newfoundland after her career. Her singing career was short and nobody really knows what happened, but she seemed to have lost her ability to sing. Her voice deteriorated, which can happen for an opera singer, as you can imagine. You have to be a very powerful singer, and it's not incomprehensible to see your voice deteriorate. Who cares what the reason was? People speculate, nobody really knows. But her career only lasted for a few years. After retiring from her singing career, she lived in England for a long time. She came back to Newfoundland in her later years and passed away here in Twillingate. And her remains are behind this museum in a graveyard just beyond what you can see over here. And there's a beautiful marker showing where she rests right now. It's great to know that she was able to come home after achieving so much and then quickly kind of falling. And that can be hard on anybody, right? So we can all imagine that. But she made it home. She lived out her life, her later years of her life here in Twillingate, and she remains back in the graveyard behind this museum right now, in a plot that beautifully memorializes this amazing Newfoundlander in our history.